Here we go again. Another war, and then another war. It wasn't good enough that Russia invaded Ukraine and they started to duke it out. The Israelis and the Palestinians, through Hamas, they decided to jump into the fire as well. Say, aren't we tired of all of this? In both instances, there is clear aggression. However, no one ever has a solid reason or a one reason for attacking another country. There are a bunch of reasons why they do it. The adult in the room can tell you this is so. Mostly, wars begin because some perceived wrong was done by the enemy. Those of us on the sidelines, we look in horror as civilians get slaughtered and cities are destroyed. In America, we have no involvement in either one of these wars, but that doesn't stop people from going out on the street and taking sides and protesting as if that would do someone some good. For them, though, it's all about the politics. They have more kinship with their political buddies than they do with their families or their ethnic group. They protest because it is, for them, the social thing to do. They don't really think about what they're protesting. No, that's because this is the result of our democracy with universal suffrage thing. Everybody has a robotic opinion that they feel they must express. Here's the part of the problem that we have in these democracies. The leaders are made up of a lot of old men who send young men out to do their bloody work for them. Oh, now they send young women out as well. You see how enlightened we've become? Oh, so advanced. Let's look at a few of those old men back in the day.
In America, Woodrow Wilson was 61 when he sent young American boys to fight in Europe. My grandfather at the time was 28 years old. FDR shoved America into the war when he was 59. My father was 20 when he went off to war. And that war ended when Harry Truman, 61, dropped the atomic bomb twice in 1945. Those bombs killed men, women, children, and babies, plus it destroyed two cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Let's look at some more recent events, like George Bush, who at 52 sent all sorts of Americans over to Afghanistan and Iraq. And America kept its presence over there, military presence, for 20 years. Well, we know how that one ended, don't we?
As for the present cast of characters, it is still old men making war for younger people to fight in. Putin is 71, and Zelensky is 45. Yahya Sinwar of Hamas is 61. Netanyahu is 74. Of all the men mentioned, only Benjamin Netanyahu has actual military experience as a soldier. Nonetheless, the truth is, little children die in their playgrounds because of the decisions of old men.
Say, here's an idea. What if those old leaders went out to the battlefield along with those young soldiers? Would that curtail wars? Well, once upon a time, that's exactly what leaders did. They didn't send their soldiers out into the battlefield. They led them out into the battlefield. Kings, back when they were fighting wars, they've usually fought for something physical like land or another kingdom. They didn't have these nebulous ideas that modern Americans or Westerners have that, oh, we're fighting for that ideal of democracy and freedom. But you know what? Even though you're fighting for democracy and freedom, children still die. Like the kings before him, Putin wants control of Ukraine, and there are ethnically Russian parts of Ukraine. But did Putin lead his army into Ukraine when he invaded it? Putin is not a badass, no. Nor is Hamas. Their leaders are hundreds of miles away. Back in the old days, if a king had a beef with another king, they took it out on each other. That is when kings were badass. Can you imagine Sinwar leading the charge against Netanyahu? No, neither can I. What if all of them got into a boxing ring together and duked it out? That way no civilians would get hurt. Of course, whoever won the boxing match, the rest of us, well, we would have to go along with it. But that's not going to happen either. What if we got rid of all the aggressors? Would some other psychopaths come along to take their place? Probably. Now here's a really pregnant question I'd like for you to think about. What if all the young people refuse to go along with the ideas those old men push? Ooh, that's revolutionary. You know what? A bit of that is going on in Russian-Ukrainian war. What if the Israelis and the Palestinians learn to live and let live? Well, a bit of that does go on in that area today, right now. So what happened then in our world in the last 2 or 3 years that we have these two major wars going on? Did all those old men fingers get itchy, or was it their bosses, the oligarchs, that got itchy? Their weapons manufacturers, they weren't making enough money. Here's what really needs to happen. The people themselves need to learn to be the badasses in all of this, especially young people. Young people have the most to lose.
The greatest badass king was Henry V. He was a young man, only 35, when he died. He won the Battle of the 100 Years' War, Agincourt, when he was 28, which means young people taking charge of their own future is historic. That means precedence has been set.
What if the Palestinians decided to take on Hamas, to throw them out of Gaza, to fight for their own future? How long do you think Hamas would last? What if the Russian people stopped cooperating with Putin? How long would Putin last? In the United States, young people have stopped cooperating so much with their presidents by not joining the armed services. Indeed, the most badass thing you can do as a young person is to stop cooperating with a state that wants to send you to die for some nebulous idea. Just say no to those old farts. That would be old people who have failed to grow up, to become adults, that they think they have to fight everything out. So ask yourself, who needs to keep fighting these same old fights? To keep having these same old wars? Repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse. Old people, and I'm talking to you now as a peer, Your old ways of doing things are stale, unimaginative, which means you lack wisdom. Shame on you. Russia, Hamas, go home and take care of business there. Be adults, stop destroying, and start building.
Young people, no matter where you are, stop going along with the old men and their old wars. Go out to nature instead and look up at the night sky. Think about a future of exploring the vast universe. So if you want a little danger in your life, it doesn't get any better than exploring space.
It will take all nations to cooperate with one another to get the job done. That means politics have to come off the table. But it is doable. First, you must want it, and then just do it.